board policy that we, it is a recorded meeting. This is welcome to the January meeting of the School Health Advisory Committee Council. So this meeting today, the purpose of the meeting today is to go over basically just to go back and look at the SHAC's responsibility for recommending school health curriculum. So when we look at that, the last year when we shared the release of the Texas legislature, we knew that school health TEKS were being updated. We knew that that was happening, but along the same lines, along the same time, the requirement for child abuse, family violence, dating violence, and human trafficking requirement also came out. At first, it appears to be, we also have the required curriculum that we provide or that we present to SHAC. We have to think of it as a concept where it's school health, okay? So when we look at school health, there are categories. And so when we think of that, I think that even us, because it's been challenging for us to even go back and see what it is that they're asking of the district to do. So first, we've always brought the sex ed curriculum to the SHAC. That is nothing new. This is something that has always happened. This is a process that's always happened. In fact, back in 2021, December 2021, there was a resolution that the board had to bring forward. We needed to tell the board, okay, it's time to renew. And so we brought that resolution to the board for sex ed, okay? And when we think about sex ed, immediately we start to think about secondary students, okay? Let's pull on that. So that resolution was passed, and so in the timeline of things, the resolution was meant for the school district to go back and review curriculum and say, okay, what is it that we're going to either continue to do, or is there new curriculum, and so that we could bring it back to the SHAC, and then bring it, the SHAC in turn presents it to the board for approval. Okay, so then we have health TEKS coming out, right? So we knew that we had health TEKS. So in looking at the health TEKS, then we seen a K through 12, the TEKS, and so in there we knew that there were some new requirements that needed to happen. But then the other thing that kind of threw us for a loop was the part where, and I'll say that personally with me, the child abuse, family violence, dating violence, we've always brought this in isolation, and we brought this topic separately to adults. The training always was for employees to be aware, because this was the requirement, this is in the employee policy. So we needed to bring them aware of how to report to CPS, how to report family violence issues, how to be aware of dating violence, and we do that. But it's different now, because now we're being asked to bring this to students. So then when we bring this to students, then the question comes up, okay, how do we do that exactly? And how do we do that for students? And is it a certain grade level, or how exactly is that being done? So what you have in front of you, what we have passed out, is just for your background knowledge, for you to have. This was released back in April in 2022. So it kind of gives you an overview, the responsibility of the SHAC, and we know that because we went over this piece before. And if you look at number 4, the school health Advisory Council's duties include being able to recommend the number of hours of instruction to be provided in K through 8 health education, and the school district requires health education for high school graduation and health education in 9 through 12. And then it goes on to list a whole series in the next bullet, a whole series of other things that we talk about pretty much in the SHAC. But it also tells us that if we look at the next, if you flip the page over, and we look at the bullet, the next bullet under, the third bullet, we say, look at appropriate grade levels and methods of instruction for human sexuality instruction. And then we continue moving down forward to the bottom, and then the last bullet says that appropriate grade levels and curriculum for instruction regarding child abuse, family violence, dating violence, and sex trafficking, including likely warning signs that a child may be at risk for sex trafficking, provided that the local school health advisory council's recommendations under this subdivision do not conflict with the essential knowledge and skills developed. In other words, basically it's what that's saying is a lot of words, right? But it's saying that we're still required to teach this through the TEKS. So in reading that, how do we teach the TEKS? Well, it goes back to looking at curriculum, and I will tell you that Mrs. Gomez and her team spent a lot of time researching this. Started to look at curriculum that really met the needs of the requirements. And we discovered that it's being taught. And that's what she will be presenting today. And so she's gonna present that curriculum to us. And it is, the next step is that we look at, we present it to you. You can ask questions about it. This is a public called meeting. So it means that anyone can come in. We're required to have 2 of them just on this topic alone. So you will see that at the end of this presentation, I will ask the committee to make a recommendation for a follow-up meeting. So if there's anyone that you want to share this forward that would like to get to know what exactly this curriculum looks like, then that's what the second meeting is about. And then this committee will then make a recommendation for the curriculum to move forward to the board for approval. Okay? And that's pretty much it in the nutshell. So I'm going to then introduce you to Mrs. Gomez. She's our Chief Instructional Officer. We have Angie Sanchez, who also works with the curriculum department with her. And so I'm going to then step aside and I'm going to let them do their presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. I know it was very short notice. When Ms. Hernandez talks about this was a little bit complicated, she's not exaggerating. We started talking in August. We've reached out to the region. They have been a huge help. But because the TEKS are new, because they're being rewritten, even working with vendors has been complicated. But I think on Monday I said, we're good. I think I finally have it, and I think it's going to make more sense to you. All those isolated questions about child abuse, what are you talking about? We never had that in our curriculum, and it's all part of the plan. So thank you, Angie, for being here. So this is our 2022-2023 health curriculum, and let me state right now, we do not have a standard curriculum across the district. This is definitely something that's needed. We are a few months behind. We haven't submitted the resolution because of that. But I think this will put it all together for you. It's not switching. I'm going to actually read this because it's just going to define what it is. It says the goal of health education is to provide instruction that allows youth to develop and sustain health-promoting behaviors throughout their lives. That's our goal. The understanding and application of these standards will allow students the ability to gather, interpret, and understand health information, achieve health literacy, and adapt to the ever-evolving science of health. And we all know that When we grew up, a lot of things children and youth and adults are dealing with very different. The health education, knowledge, and skills should be presented to students in a positive manner to support the development of a healthy self-concept and responsible decision-making. The standards will help students reinforce, foster, and apply positive character traits. That's kind of, I guess, the goal, right? Very positive. This is what we want to do. I don't know how many of you are parents, but I know even as a mom, sometimes you think, who's going to be talking to my child? And what is it they're going to say? And that's just because we're parents and we think it should come from me. Well, it's very important that, yes, while it might come from Ms. Gomez here, it may not come from the neighbor. So this is very important to say, no, it's our responsibility to send out this information. So you're going to see here, and I broke it up. In kinder through third grade, students gain the understanding of health information and skills through 5 strands. There's only 5 strands that they need to know in kinder, first, second, and third by the state. This is it. They have to understand physical health and hygiene, mental health and wellness, healthy eating and physical activity, injury and violence prevention and safety, and alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. Those are the overlying objectives. When you get to 4th through 8th, they're exactly the same, except that you're going to see at the bottom that they add reproductive and sexual health information. So, in high school, health education is not mandated as a state requirement. However, I will tell you that anybody in our health careers and any of those pathways is exposed to it, also in PE, athletics. So we cover this a whole lot more at the secondary level without even knowing it. We push out a lot of information to our teachers through Del Rio Cares, through daily, weekly lessons, without really covering, a TEAC, because we don't have any that we have to cover. But the district, under Dr. Rios, for the last 10 years, we've really emphasized, even when it's not a requirement, what we need to do. And you're going to see that in the next slides. So this is what we have found. We have researched so many different curriculums. There's really not a curriculum out there that covers everything. The first one that we found, and it was through the region, several webinars, is something called CATCH, Health Ed Journeys. Welcome.
Hello.
I'll take a pause. We can let you sit down. This is a K-3 curriculum. It meets 100% of the required 2022 TEACs for grades K-3. This is the easiest one. It's like, here's the cost. If we pay for it and the board approves it, if you all, present it and it gets approved, this one's easy. K-3, it covers everything, those 5 strands. It's all in there. It's in multiple lessons. You'll see here there's 36 weekly lessons. If we were to present it in January, February of this year, we would up it to 2 lessons per week to kind of catch up. Getting ready for August, we would do 1 lesson per week, 36 weeks a year. So this is what we're looking at. It's called CATCH, Health Ed Journeys. This was the easy one. If we continue, we go to 4th through 6th. Remember when I mentioned that 4th through 8th, the exact same thing except for reproductive? So the CATCH again here covers 100% of the required TEACs for health. This is where it gets a little tricky. It does not cover the reproductive health. So we had to go look for something else. Also, down here at the bottom, you'll see the little heart and the little, I can't tell what they are. I can't even read them. It says foundational health literacy, nutrition and physical activity, physical health and hygiene, mental health, talks about substance misuse prevention. This is the big one. This is the new one. This one says injury and violence prevention and safety. That is your new child abuse, prevention abuse. That is the new one that Ms. Sandra was talking about. We could not find the correlation. What's actually in the health curriculum. That last component is is where those options are covered. So hold the thought about reproduction, because I still haven't covered it. So then we go to 7th and 8th. It's exactly the same as 4 through 5, or 4 through 6. And I'll tell you why I separated it, because we are already doing something here, and we've been doing it for several years, so I have it separated. But really, in your mind, you should be thinking 4 through 8. The catch will cover all the health, does not, including child abuse and prevention, but it does not cover reproductive. So 7th and 8th, again, here's the cost. This is, for those of you that aren't aware, this is a very reasonable cost. I don't want you to think, wow, $3,000. No, if it's going to be all of our students, that is a very reasonable cost. That's another reason that we were excited about something that covered 100% in a sequential manner, that had 36 lessons, easy for the teacher, the coach to deliver. So I didn't want to point that out. So here we go. So as I mentioned, in 7th and 8th, several years ago, maybe 5 years ago, Dr. Rios came and said, you know, let's look at some data. Del Rio, state of Texas, we have a very high percentage of pregnancy. We have a whole program just for pregnancy-related services. So he said, we need to start talking to our students. Before the state said it was mandated, he started saying we need to have conversations. So Marlene Ramirez used to work at the hospital, and now she's a community rep, but we had contracted with her back even when she was at the hospital, and she would come in and do several sessions at 7th and 8th grade. Put it together for you, so you'll see like in 8th grade, they will start lessons on January 27th and they go through February 17th. The permission slips have been sent out to parents because that is a requirement. You can opt out. You can say, I don't want my child to participate. There's not a, well, why not? It's a yes or no. And then these are the different sessions. She's also on the 27th, on the 10th, and on the 17th, she comes into the classrooms. In this case, it is through science. So 8th grade, through science teachers, she'll give the lessons. In addition, she's going to have a table set up during lunches for students that have more questions. So, they don't want to ask in class, but she's going to set up on the stage in middle school, over in the back, and students can come and ask her questions. So that's part of the contract. Those are the session 1, session 2, you'll see over there. Knowledge of HIV, STIs, and pregnancy prevention is one of the topics. She's also doing value of safer sex, especially abstinence. She has another one that's improved ability to negotiate abstinence and safer sex practices, and the ability to refuse to participate in risky behaviors. For many of us, those are topics that are difficult to discuss. So having a licensed person, she was from the hospital at one point, and now she's a community rep, discuss with our children and bring it up. Hopefully it's going to foster those good conversations, because the end result is awareness, ability to say no, that reasoning. We have to think about an 8th grader being 14 years old. 14. That's, that's difficult. That's just we're not talking about 25-year-olds. 14 years old. They're going through a whole lot. So having those conversations is going to be very powerful. She does the same thing with 7th grade, but you can tell we start a little bit later. We start in March, and it's going to go through social studies. So she goes into the classrooms, you're in social studies, she does these lessons. It's the same topics. What I've learned from her is the 7th grade topic is at this level, the 8th grade, she expands just a little bit more. A whole year between a 13 and a 14-year-old makes a difference, but we still have to realize they're teenagers, they're very young. Again, same type situation, these are the sessions, and then over here she's going to have that table talk ability. So I wanted to point that out because even though I mentioned that we don't have a district health curriculum at this point, I do want you to know that for years we've been doing the awareness. It's going to get better as the slides go on, but I want you to know this is already happening. This is the permission slip that went out. You can see it lists the different types of sessions, a yes or a no. We have them in English and Spanish, and again, that's what the campus has been doing for several years. was a grant that came to us, I want to say in 2015. 2015 at the freshman school, a grant came through, and what they did is, I don't remember her name, like Dr. Ranoli. I don't remember her exact name, Janet Ranoli. She created this curriculum, and she needed to pilot it. So we applied for a grant, we got it, they asked us. It went through our biology department at freshman. All the teachers were trained. It included going to San Antonio for a couple of weeks for instruction. It included embedding everything into the curriculum. It included, at that time, if you said, yes, I want my child to participate, unfortunately, because it was a pilot, they could have gone into the actual yes or into the, I guess, the placebo, the no. So all the yeses still went to a yes, they got the lesson, or no, they didn't. Nobody knew. Because at that point, they were trying to look for data. So everything she does is research-based. So we had this, and you'll see right there, it was 10 lessons. It's been implemented for the past 5 years, not required by the state, something Dr. Rios said was a need. So we did that, and in 2020, the grant expired. And Dr. Rios said, that's okay, we're going to continue to fund that program, the training, the materials, the science teachers, biology. We've still continued it. It's a good program. At this time, our numbers are very low for pregnancies at high school or even lower, as compared to even 7 years ago, 6 years ago, 5 years ago. So something's working. And it's not, I'm not saying it's the program, but at least we're putting it out there as a school district, and then I'm sure families. This is the big decision. You can see here that it was done back in December, from the 2nd through the 9th for all freshmen. There should have been a permission slip that went out. This is different. It's no longer a pilot, so everybody who said yes got the lessons. Early college, high school freshmen, and Delro freshmen, if the parents said no, we had a place for them to go. It wasn't a gotcha or anything like that. But you can look at the numbers. The freshmen, 486 out of 675 students, 72% participated. And at early college, high school, 111 out of 126 freshman students participated, 88%. Again, not anything the state's requiring, something that our district's doing for the community. Here's where, oh, that was the permission slip, just to show you this. So, now you know where we are. Kinder through 3rd, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here are some of the options, and this is what SHAC is going to help us decide. So we have 2 options for 4th and 5th grade, pregnancy related. Remember, the health curriculum catch covers all the TEACS plus child abuse, parent, all of that. The only thing missing is reproductive. This one is K-12 curriculum. It's a collection of lesson plans on a wide range of topics, including self-understanding, family growth and development, friendship, sexuality, life skills, and health production. It's called Rights, Respect, Responsibility. It was designed for use as a sequential curriculum in our parts according to the needs of the educator. It's an option. It's not my first choice, but it won't be my decision. It will be yours, but I am sharing. I feel like a lot is missing. It comes from Advocates for Youth. That's the organization that actually wrote this. It includes lesson plans and teaching resources. It's 40 minutes per session, and it is free. I feel like a lot of things are missing. I feel like this little organization got together, kind of their points of view were put in. I don't see the research base behind it, but that is an option. It's free. Again, like I said, the cost didn't seem like much for the others. The one that we're looking at closely and we'd really like to share with you is from the same doctor who did Big Decisions. She's put together something that's called Healthy Futures of Texas. This is for 4th and 5th graders. Now, it's in the final stages. The only thing that's pending is the review of the medical personnel to make sure that all the facts in there and all the information is factual, more research-based. It's called On for 4th and 5th is called On My Way. It is a 4-lesson curriculum that is very similar to Big Decisions, which has been used at the freshman now for 7 years, with the agency developed and then evaluated from Del Rio from 2015 to 2020. So that same person, that pilot. That one looks complete. It just looks like everything's there. They sent us all the lessons, they sent us all the activities, they sent us everything, but then they said cannot share because at this point it hasn't been approved. They haven't approved it, right? It's still in that stage. But what they did let us share is just the overview. Those were the 4 lessons. Lesson 1 talks about starting the journey, and then it has a very specific objectives. And it talks about defining puberty as a temporary life stage of social, physical, and emotional development. Reviewing the elements for safe and supportive learning environments. Considering characteristics of trust and identifying at least one trusted adult. I think that's important to talk to those kids and say, who do you trust? Who can you talk to, right? Identify emotions and practice language skills for processing physical emotional responses. So that's just lesson 1, but it's broken down, and then it had all the activities that go with it. What's it going to look like? What's it going to sound like? Because again, in 4th and 5th grade, it would be our teachers giving out this information. So training for the teachers, because some of them are saying, I'm not the nurse. Give it to the coaches.
My feet comes out and I want to do that.
At one point they said, can the art and music teachers do it? I remember that. So it's like, no. But again, lesson 2 is boundaries and respect. See, you can already tell where it's going. It talks about developing communication skills around values, emotions, boundaries, understanding qualities of healthy and unhealthy relationships. I think that's key. Sometimes we don't know that it's an unhealthy relationship. Identifying boundaries in different types of relationships and understanding rejection and how to manage it, right? It's not rejection, but it feels like it. And then, of course, lesson 3 is puberty in the body. Yeah, I mean, I wish our nurse could go and do all of those. I'm sure the teachers would too, but we just have to get more comfortable. Identify anatomy as it relates to physical changes in reproduction. Examine the relationship between physical, emotional, and social changes during puberty. Considering how body image impacts how we relate to and interact with others. And outlining healthy hygiene habits during menstrual cycles. Very difficult conversations sometimes to have. And then, of course, the last one was called On My Way. It's understanding strategies for managing all the changes that occur during puberty and identifying a plan for how to care for yourself socially, emotionally, and physically. So that's what that, aside from catch journeys, that's what this curriculum would bring for the reproductive and sexual health. So that's 4th and 5th.
In addition to.
And it did, yes ma'am. It would be a separate component. It's only 4 lessons. But I say 4 lessons. I don't know if those are all in one lesson or if I would break each one of those up, by the week, by the 6 weeks. We'd have to look at that. But you can tell it's not overwhelming, but it's got good information for what, 9 and 10-year-old, 4th and 5th grade. They're still young. Okay. So that's Healthy Futures. Now for 6th, 7th, and 8th, I think we have 3 options, maybe 2 options. This one's called Draw the Line, Respect the Line. This one is about $599 per campus, plus we pay $5 per each student. The next, I think all the 3 they're equitable. They all covered all the information. It's just our choice. So here we would say the PE or science teacher, because I know like in 6th grade they do have health, they rotate, and in 7th and 8th it might be, we don't know. That would still have to be decided. But that was, it talks about evidence-based curriculum promoting abstinence. We always promote abstinence and protection. And then it provides students in grades 6, 7th, and 8th with the knowledge and skills to prevent, again, the same thing, HIV, STDs, and unplanned pregnancies. The next one, that one was Draw the Line. This one's called Making Proud Choices. We've had this before. I can remember many years ago, maybe when I was a principal at Doral Middle School, but I do remember this curriculum was being taught as part of health. Again, same thing. It talks about evidence-based curriculum provides adolescents with knowledge, confidence, and skills necessary to reduce the skill of sexually transmitted diseases, HIV, pregnancy, by abstaining from sex or using protection if they choose to have sex. We always promote abstinence, but at the same time, we have to continue to talk to them about if you are sexually active, you need to be careful, you need to take care of yourself and the reasons. So you'll see there, just in a quick wrap up, make sure everybody got it. Kinder first, second, and third, all we need is a health curriculum. We have it. We have the CAT, it covers everything. Five strands, 100%. When you get 4th through 8th, we just want you to know that it does cover 100%, still catch. So it would be a K-8 curriculum, still catch. 100% of the health curriculum is covered, including all the child abuse, those 4 components that Sandra was talking about, which was the most difficult part to find, and it's all under that one icon, that separate section. So that's K-8, I'm sorry, 4-8. But then the piece that's missing for 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 is the reproductive. We have the 2, go back to the 2 types, Angie, for that one. Rights, respect, and responsibility, and then we have the other one about healthy futures. Those are the 2 choices we have. And what I'd like to do is put like a little summary together to send it out to you via email through Ms. Hernandez so that you can actually research. My opinion is just that. It's just my opinion. I'm just saying, wow, this one, I've worked with these people before. They've been with us for 7 years already at freshman under a different title, but it's the same doctor, same process, same theory. And then for 6th, 7th, and 8th, we have draw the line, respect the line. Cost is about the same, so that should not make a difference in your decision, and then making proud choices. Are there any questions?
Will all this be implemented next year, school year?
I'll be honest, if I could, if, you know, we take this to the board, let's say in February. Let's say in February we take, even if it was just a K2, and we could be, or K3, because that doesn't include anything else, we could get started. In 7th, 8th, and 9th, we already have a whole lot of extra going on. Yay, yay for the district. But, you know, the curriculum itself, K8, if we say 8 just for the health, 100%, we could do a K8 adoption. Then we do have to bring in, make decisions on the reproductive, which one we want. So to answer your question, definitely for August, but we could implement now, it would be good too.
So full implementation, certainly by the beginning of the next school year, full implementation, we're required to, in order to meet the statutory law. Second piece of it is, she's already shared, there's some things that are already happening, so it's not like we're not, you know, addressing the school health, but there's some more to get done. So the next step is that we want you to look at it. She's going to share some information with you. She will share it with me, and I will share it via email because we want you to look into it. We want you to just, you know, get to know it a little bit better, and certainly generate any questions that you have if you don't have any questions today. So the next step is that we are required to have another public meeting. And so this may be between here and there, is looking at the information that Mrs. Gomez presented to you today. Look at it, research it, write your questions down, so at our second meeting we could then, you know, ask the questions and then make a decision, a consensus between the committee members here, which direction to go. So again, this information, this is part of your role as a SHAC council, is that you're going to have that deliberation of those choices that have been presented to you today. You're going to narrow down what those best choices are. Then once we will put it to a vote, and to a formal vote for your recommendation to the board. And that board meeting would be in February. Okay, so it buys us some time, buys us some, a little bit of time, but not a whole lot of time. At least we have the ball rolling.
And I will point out that it's my understanding that somebody from the committee here would actually present this to the board,
Yes.
but I would put the PowerPoint together, take away all the extra stuff, right? Just we have catch, let's just pretend it went like this. K8, 100% of the teaks, this is covered, we're ready to go. And then the other components, and that would be the whole presentation. It wouldn't be as long as this or as detailed, it would be more of a, these are the decisions that have been made, we're ready to move forward. There was one question about time. None of it tells you about time. It doesn't require 30 minutes, 10 minutes, 7 minutes. All I've been able to read is you have to teach the teak. So just want to put it out there in case that was on the back of your mind, because I know something
Sure.
that I read talked about time.
Exactly. It's not about the number of minutes. It's meant like how do we have to implement it within the school year. What does that look like? Well, certainly some of it's already been ironed out for us. Some of it's already been detailed right there. So as the other questions have, that they're making a decision is dependent on the curriculum that you choose. So how is it going to be implemented? I know she shared with you, maybe it's the science teacher or the PE teacher. But that we'll discuss later.
Yes,
This is right now our goal is to identify curriculum that we're going to adopt, and then we could take those next questions and those next steps later as we begin to evolve. Does that make sense? All right, any questions that you guys have, feel free to ask right now if there's something that you just are burning to ask. Input, parents, I know I've got Melina, I've got Miss Mesa.
I mean, I honestly, my opinion, I think it's great. Because I have 4 children from the age of 8 to 14. And this is, a topic that is hard for me to talk to them about, but I'm already at that stage where I have to talk about a certain thing to my almost 10-year-old, puberty and this, and then the 8-year-old, it's another story, and then the 12-year-old and something else, and the 14-year-old. So us implementing this in school, would help me a lot. And I know my 14-year-old already brought me the form to sign. She's in 8th grade, so she already brought the form for me to sign. And then I have one in 7th grade, and he hasn't brought it home yet, but I think it's a great idea. I really do. As a parent, and I'm a single mom, and it's hard for me to, explain to my son, like, oh, well, this is how it is, or that, especially being, having boys and girls. Like, for girls, it's easier for me to explain to them, but the boys, I'm like, oh, I don't know. Let me bring somebody in to talk to you about it, and it's just, I think it's a great idea. And I do see where you're saying, some teachers may not want to talk about this, or, they're going to, say, oh, it's the nurse's job, or whoever it may be, but I honestly think it's a great idea. I really do.
And just to put it out there, it won't be the nurse's job. I'm saying they wanted to give it to the coaches in elementary. It's like, no, gotta do 45 minutes of PE, and then it was, well, let's give it to art music, and it's like, no, we're gonna bring it in as part of science, health, but they'll do it. What I liked about it was how easy it seemed.
Mhm.
Like, this is all I need to talk about, and this would be your opening guided question. Because I have a room of 22
And a pretty
9-year-olds, boys and girls, you hear the giggling. It is
Yes.
different, but we need to start getting it out there.
I wonder, and maybe just because Melina kind of alluded to something like this, I wonder if there is not a parental piece guide that says, okay, this is the curriculum we're about to present. Most curriculums do have a parent guide that kind of just supports, okay, this is where we're about to do, type of thing, and that may be something.
I think that's a very interesting concept.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't, you notice that for elementary there's no parent consent. Because it's not that deep. But I like the idea of notifying our parents to say, hey, during the 6 weeks, we will be touching on these 3 things. Right, just as an FYI, and then it would open the door for you to talk a little What did you learn in school today? Nothing.
I remember I used to live in San Antonio and I had friends that had older children than mine.
Yes.
And I know at one point, one of my friend's daughters was gonna go through the sex ed at school, and she said she couldn't go through it. Like, you know, she said, I wanna be able to teach her that at home. I think it's my responsibility to do that. But, I mean, in my opinion, I think she should have let her, you know, do it at school, because it's another point of view, somebody else that may know a little more, or another way of explaining it than a parent. You know, like with my 14-year-old, I'm sometimes embarrassed, like, to tell her, and you know, and this is how it is, and you know, and whatever. But hearing it from somebody else, they may understand it better. They may not laugh at you, or you know, take it serious. Oh, you know, this is something serious that we're talking about. It's not nothing, you know, joking about at home or whatever it may be. But I mean, I just think it's a great idea. I really do, and I hope it works out.
And so this is why parents have the opt-in. This is why you have the letters that
The
go out, because
88%.
parents that are interested in having, like, your point of view and saying, I would love for the district to
Conversations
present.
to
'Cause,
start.
you know, because part of it is required teach. We're still required to present, you know, very basic concept of school health. It's just curriculum. It's just, you know, the required curriculum. That's number one. The second part of that is that parents do have the, you know, to opt in, you can choose not to, because you would prefer to, you know, educate your child. And this is why this is that level of respect, you know, so we have that, know that there's that flexibility, we have to respect those values. And so, you know, moving forward, that's, you know, that's what we wanna be able to offer, is that transparency, so that parents understand there is that opt-in, there is that, there is the curriculum, and so at this point, really going back and, you know, bringing us back into focus is, you know, it's about choosing the curriculum now. It's about helping us to choose and recommend the curriculum so that the board can approve it for us, so we can move forward, and making sure that we're well into compliance.
And I just want to point out that you don't have a choice on the catch. If you don't like it, we need to go back to the drawing board. That is the only curriculum that I could find, and we're talking, she's nodding, because at one point I put it on her, and I said, you have nothing to do, you do. No, I didn't say that. I said, help me, because, you know, Dobro cares. And then she did the best she could, and then I had a couple of my coordinators attend through the region, and they did the best this could. And then I sent it all to Ms. Sanchez, and I put it in a PowerPoint, it still didn't. There's so many pieces missing. So catch, unfortunately, you don't have an option, so I'll send you the link so you can look at it. We either like it, and if we don't, then we gotta go back to the drawing board. The other ones, you will have an option.
Well, I want to thank Angie, and I want to thank Mrs. Gomez for putting this presentation together. They've done a lot of work, a lot of research. It was a lot of work, because there's a lot of learning on our part to do to get to this point. So I want to thank them. Thank you so much for presenting. So our next step is really to make a decision on a meeting. We need to have our second public hearing. And so I'm going to ask members of the SHAC, anyone, to make a recommendation for, we are required, because it is a public meeting, we are required to post 72 hours, excuse me. So at minimum, before we have our next meeting. So any suggestions?
So let me ask you, what are we taking to the board in January? Just the resolution?
We're taking
Or
just the resolution
So we have till February 20.
to make the recommendations, to make the actual recommendation. Right.
That gives us a little bit of time.
Right.
Okay.
Any recommendations, parents, staff?
Do we have to meet once a month for this committee, correct?
We have to meet at least 4 times during the year, but this presents this presents itself like, you know, because we're actually having to adopt curriculum. You know, this is where an extra meeting has to happen, because we're required by statute to have the second hearing. So, you know, we can count it as meeting number 3 or meeting number 2. You know, we can do that if you like. Ms. Esme, you have a recommendation?
I recommend 2 weeks from now. I don't know if Fridays work well for everyone, but I propose January the 27th at 2 o'clock at the same time.
January 27th, 2 o'clock.
I like that because then we can put something together by Tuesday to send out. That gives you 2 weeks to kind of play with it, call us, you know, ask questions.
So we have a recommendation from Mrs. Mesa for Friday, January the 27th at 2 p.m. Is there anyone who would like to second that? Okay, so we have a second. All right, so Friday, January 27th at 2 p.m., same time, same place. We will send an invite, we will send you some links, some more information. And I'd like to, once again, thank our presenters today. And that is it that we have on the agenda for today, to be honest with you. So the time is now 2:45 is what I have. And this meeting is adjourned.
And I know we only have a few parents here, but I'm going to make our plug for our parental conference next Saturday, the 21st. It'll be at Del Rio High School in the morning. We have about 70 sessions you can choose from. You'll be assigned to you get to choose 3 different sessions. So if you haven't been contacted by your school, shame on them. No. I'm on camera. No, I'm still on camera. They are reaching out, but of course it's open to anybody. So the sessions, I'm very proud of the sessions. I really am. It also includes a luncheon at 12, and it also includes a lot of door prizes that Ms. Zuniga and Ms. Adams have been working with the community to get. So plus every session is going to have door prizes. So we're excited. We haven't been able to have one in many years, at least in the 7 I've been
Did we get everyone to sign in? Just
No,
to-
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
I saw it over here.
We'll pass that sign-in sheet and make sure everyone does sign in. So, let's see. We're also going to be recruiting membership. Okay, so at our next meeting, and I will let you know that our president for the SHAC, she moved, so that she relocated. So now that position opens up, and so we will talk about that at next. I'll put it as an agenda item at our next meeting, so that we can then, elect a person to be the president and chair and co-chair. And just put a little bug in your ear. So if there are any other parents or any other individuals that you would love to invite that would benefit from being here in this committee, please do so. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for your time.